Welcome. I am so honored to be here with these incredible women who have walked the rewilded journey. I am excited to introduce Tilly Storm. I'm going to you wave your hand, Tilly, and then Amanda Faust, both here today, and we may have one other joining us in a little bit. And what I want to share is that today is really about getting to hear raw, unfiltered stories of transformation, like what actually takes place inside the container of Rewilded. And it isn't about perfect testimonials, it's just about authentic truth telling. And I actually know both of these women are excellent at that. And so I'm excited to just kind of see where it takes us today. So we're creating a sacred space for honest sharing. And if anybody has questions, you can feel free to add them as we're going through as well, and we'll just weave them in. So I want to start at the beginning. And my first question is, what was life like before Rewilded? And a couple of kind of supplemental questions, if you want to grab those, would be like, what were you tired of tolerating? Or what made you know that it was time for this kind of deep work?
Do you have a preference on who goes first?
Whoever wants to jump in, there's no structure to that. You can go for it.
Okay, I guess I will then. What was life like before? It was like hitting my head against a wall and going like an absolute crazy person, honestly. Like kept repeating the same patterns and not having the support to get out.
Mm.
And me thinking that buying into beliefs that it was some strategy I was missing or like something that someone else was doing that clearly I was not smart enough to understand or that I just never got and thinking that, something must be wrong with me. Yeah, it felt extremely frustrating
Mm,
because I had been in stuck mode for almost 3 years.
mm,
And it was to the point where I was about to hang up my business and quit like indefinitely. um yeah, so
which is
frustrated.
saying something because you've invested a lot in your business.
Oh my god, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, hundreds. And my own personal growth, business coaches, uh back end systems, all the things. I had a thriving business and then it wasn't anymore. And then it was stuck, 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 stuck,
Mm,
and constantly trying to figure it out through different strategies. And I knew I didn't need another strategy.
yeah.
Eventually I got to the point I was like, okay, I know I don't need this. I need one-on-one support to figure out like what the hell is going on inside of me that is causing all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tilly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me, some of it is similar to what you shared, Tilly, with like the strategy side, but like as far as not needing another strategy, I can really resonate with that. But I too came from a place of running a business for a long time and really understanding who I was with the business hat, but not knowing how to release like this other side of me that was just like I don't want to say it was dormant because I knew it was there and I was aware of it, but it was more like I don't know how to bring that part of me out and if it's safe to bring out in a business setting. And kind of like identifying what that part was called, which we can get into a little later. I'm sure you have other questions, but I'll stick to where I was before. But I didn't really know how to name the part of me that I felt like I was kind of holding back because I was just this business minded person for so long. And I too had worked with a lot of different coaches on the strategy side and knowing that like there's a place for that for sure, but there was like a different piece that was missing. And I wanted to be like seen and known and not just for my skill set, but like who I am as a person. And that's something that I definitely like knew you could do. And that's why like where I was before and why I wanted to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. The I hear the themes of both stuck was like an indicator, but also then like ready, like stuck
Mhm.
and right, that's the tired of tolerating piece, like stuck and ready to be unstuck, like deeply ready, right? I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I actually have a testimonial that was shared with me from another previous Rewilded client who wasn't able to be here today. And I'm actually going to just go ahead and read her answer to that same question. I asked her what was happening in your life when you decided to join Rewilded and what made you ready for this kind of deep work. And she said, her name is Stephanie. She said, I was living on my own for the first time. I was really questioning how I grew up, what I believed about myself, God, people, and the world around me. And I was honestly ready to take a look at myself and move forward confidently. So for her, that like readiness was there as well, it sounds like. Yeah. So I want to move to the next piece, which is the transformation itself. So what surprised you most about the rewilded process? I'd love if you could share a moment, maybe when something shifted inside you, or even what parts you welcomed back home.
I'll go on that one. I'm very surprised at the approach, Emily. I do a lot of deep somatic healing work, and I almost thought that's what I needed, and it is not what I needed at all.
Wow.
It wasn't like, let's go in and work with all of your parts, which is what I do for my clients. But that's a totally different thing. Like they actually are working on healing their relationship with their body and sexuality, not like trying to unearth specifically this one part. Like you work with this one part, but the way that you approach it isn't like through a healing lens almost. It's more of what I consider coaching to be, even where it's just like taking you from baseline to higher, not like fixing anything. I didn't need to be fixed.
Yeah.
I didn't need to heal anything. I didn't need to fix it. I needed to freaking wake up and remember. And that's what has been about for me.
Yeah.
So it was surprising to me that we didn't need to do any of the healing and the fixing and whatever. I just needed to actually get in touch with a part of me that I have been in touch with before, whom I have already known and embodied and been. I just, for whatever reason, forgot about her. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that the breakthrough moment was in the middle of a launch that I was doing
Mm.
for my group program. And I was so frustrated and angry at everything, like literally everything in my life. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, I literally will not tolerate anything less than moving forward with my life.
Mm.
And to me, that looks like actually getting clients and actually being able to serve the world in the way that I'm here to serve. And there's so many ways that anger and frustration could have come off in a bad way, or like been perceived as something that I shouldn't be feeling or experiencing. And you helped me to actually use that frustration, anger as medicine, and
Mm.
to, but even before that, to identify why I was even so frustrated and angry. It wasn't that I was frustrated with my audience. It wasn't frustration because of the people, like in general. It was frustration and anger at the bullshit stories that I know that they're telling themselves to be true that aren't true at all, and their inability to get past it. And being able to identify where, like, what was I really frustrated and so angry about? Dude, that was life changing, because it literally allowed me to channel that frustration and anger from like a sacred place, from like a place of pure medicine to my own clients and audience. And I ended up having the best launch, the highest grossing launch I've ever had in one time of my group program, because I channeled it in like a very mature way, not like lashing out at people or being angry at them, but for like taking a stand for them, which is what they really freaking needed. So
Ah. Even as you share it right now, Tilly, I can feel just like the sacred authority that you're standing in. And yeah, I love how you said like with maturity. Like absolutely, right? Like, oh, thank you for sharing that with me, with us. Yeah.
It's so good. Um, I would say for me, I had so much transformation. And what's so hard, Emily, is that one thing that I've not been able to do yet with my work with you, because I've known you for so long and done different things with you, is I have such a hard time describing it because so much of working with you is an experience. Like, I'm like, how do I put words to like something that people just need to experience themselves? Because so much of your gifting is through that experience. So I'm going to do my best here, but I know for me, my transformation kind of was like I had several things kind of in a box. My personality is feels very chaotic internally. Like I feel like I have a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts, a lot of chaos internally. And so because of that, I've trained myself to be like, this is okay, this is not. You can feel this, you can't feel this. Like I do a lot of labeling of that. And so, what was so great about working with you is you would call out a lot of that in me. Like, I've noticed this, or I've noticed that, or I see a pattern of this, and like, what if that isn't actually bad, or what if you allowed this a little bit more? And so you kind of just like upended all my labels and boxes that I had that I thought like created more safety for myself and actually released a lot of freedom for me to just experience things more. I mean, even just how disconnected I was to my body was a big thing for me because you had a lot of questions around that, and that was a part of the experience too, which I was intrigued by and open to, kind of what you're saying, like being ready. I knew that was a place I lacked was like the connection of mind and body, but I also was in my head like, well, I don't have time for that, or it's not like I had done that for so long. Um, so my transformation was just like learning that so many things I'd kind of like allowed to be in a box or allowed to be labeled as bad were actually things that were holding me back because I love how Tilly said, like, you can have anger in a healthy way. You can have like all these bad emotions that we might have labeled and be super healthy with them and they can actually serve you.
Mm-hmm.
So you just help me trust myself a lot more with that.
Mm. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And for even the picture is funny, your metaphor of tipping over all the boxes. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think that I'd like to think that we did that together. I didn't just walk in and kick them over, right? But
No,
like,
no, no. But you made me even see it was like possible and like to question things a little more than I was.
yeah. And I love that though too, because I think um there's something to being able to look at the same thing from a new perspective and say, oh, there's value I missed, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let me actually share what Stephanie's response was as well, since we're moving through that. So she shared that the parts of her that felt caged or exiled when we began our work together was that she didn't know how to navigate family relationships or set boundaries. She was playing small and had a lot of self-doubt about her own capabilities, contributions, and value. And she felt like so I'm just gonna, this goes into the next question. So, um, the surprise piece of it, she said she was surprised that she reclaimed her adventurous, brave spirit, the parts of her that weren't afraid to venture into unknown territory and trust herself as well. She claimed her voice. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it in her words. I reclaimed my own voice and began to place more value in my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas rather than living like they didn't matter. So I'd like to move now into just the question of right now. So let's talk about how you move through life differently now, because it's significant to have transformation. And the point of this, right, is integration and moving into like a way of living and being that stewards that change for like continuous growth. And so, how do you know? or how do you show up in your relationships or your work or your daily life differently? What are you no longer performing or pretending? And where do you trust yourself more deeply?
I feel like those are three very different questions.
Yeah, well,
What
any of,
was the
and
first
yeah,
one again?
feel free to answer any or all of them.
What was the first one again?
How do you show up in your relationships, your work, or your daily life differently?
Okay. I'm actually not through with the program. I think I have 2 sessions left or something like that. And how I show up differently, I would say like our last session was really powerful because I could pinpoint how something was off and not ignore it. Normally, I would just steamroll through what felt off because that's what I thought I should be doing anyway. And because I'm such an action taker and a doer, I would typically just, okay, whatever. This is what we have to do to like make money in a business consistently. I guess this is what we're doing then. Great. Like, but I also know that's part of the energy that got me in this position in the first place. And I can't continue to do that anymore. So, being able to stop and slow the hell down
Mm,
really is it, like how I see that I'm showing up differently. It's like I'm able to pause and be like, this is off, and take the time to actually pinpoint what is off before steamrolling my, and then being very disappointed in the end and
mm,
feeling like, oh, look, I took all of this action and it didn't bear any fruit, even though I knew something was not aligned and was off
mm.
before I even started. That's what I had been doing for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, this last session was like, okay, right, I can stop. We need to figure out what's off here. And then what came through was like the thing that actually felt like ease. It actually felt like what I wanted, not the shoulds.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were
Mm.
the other 2 questions around that?
What are you no longer performing or pretending, which I think you answered that. And then where do you trust yourself more deeply now?
Yeah, trusting that when something does feel off, like I immediately do need to pause,
Mm,
put the button on and no more until we figure this out, because this is not worth my time and energy to keep moving forward with something, whether it be, well, not a relationship for me, but like for you, if it's something feels off in your relationship or whatever, you can't figure out what it is, but you keep yourself in that same situation without pressing pause and taking that time to figure out what's actually going on that feels off, or whether it's your business too, like it was for me. So yeah, that would be, I think that's all I have to say around that.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
That's good. I feel like my answer is kind of a combination of the two questions. So I would say, do you want to ask the question one more time just to make sure I'm answering it?
Yeah.
What's the first one? Because I remember the next one was trusting myself.
So, how do you show up in your relationships, work life differently? And then what are you no longer performing or pretending?
Yes, that's good. Okay, so the thing that came to mind when you asked that was I know that like everyone's voice matters, so I feel weird saying that like my gifting is this, but I feel like one of my giftings is my voice. And I was like kind of going back to what I said earlier about right and wrong and like this is okay, this isn't okay, that kind of thing. I was definitely being careful, being overly careful with my voice for a while. I led a team of people and was always like, I don't want to say the wrong thing or I don't want them to take this wrong or that kind of thing. So I would kind of like sugarcoat truth a little bit, even though I do know how to communicate and I do know how to like effectively get my point across with my team. And you taught me to like trust my voice more and like the fire behind it. And it's interesting because now, because that's what we're talking about, is like how it's impacting now. I've had a few run-ins where like it's not been accepted and it's not been responded to the way I've wanted it to be. But instead of immediately being like, oh, that's why I gotta like dial it back, or that's why I gotta not use it so much, I've remembered our work together and made it more of like I don't want to say like it's a them issue, like I'm not being offensive, like that's your issue, but I don't know how to word it differently. But basically, instead of it being a me issue, I've kind of just been like, okay, well, that must be something they need to work through or they need to think through, because I'm very confident that I have good intention and I worded that right. And like, just, I don't know, just being more trusting with my words and not feeling like I have to swing to accommodate other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think you answered the trusting question very much as well. Yeah, thank you. Let me go ahead and read Stephanie's response, and then I have another kind of unique question I'd like to ask. So her response was, so how do you move through your days differently now compared to before Rewilded was the question. And Stephanie said, I feel more confident. I know myself more. I'm okay with liminal space and times of transition or gray areas in life. I still think about the wolf story, and I remember the stones that Emily introduced me to during Rewilded, structures that have brought a sense of calm and bravery. The practice of noticing allies has also become a part of my life, and especially helps me during times of uncertainty when I'm needing support and reminders of who I truly am. She said she's no longer tolerating smallness. She's working, excuse me, on vocalizing. I'm working on vocalizing my thoughts and opinions more without being asked. And in what ways do you trust yourself more deeply now? She said, I've learned that I always have a choice. I can keep moving forward and grow, or I can stay stuck in unforgiveness. I trust myself to find solutions and be more resilient now, to bounce back quicker when expectations aren't met or things don't go as planned. So the next question I'd love to just invite you to consider is, what would you say to your before rewilded self now? If you could offer her something, what would you share with her?
Let's see. To stop looking for something that's wrong or another strategy or a thing to fix you, because it isn't any of that in the first place. That you just need to get back in touch with that wild primal wolf side, because that's what's been missing, and that's it. It's not trying to create something or fix something or prove something. It's just getting back in touch and remembering it. And if I could tell her one thing, is just to do this sort of work first. A lot sooner.
Oh,
And then maybe we wouldn't have felt so stuck for so long.
I love that. Yeah, thank you, Tilly.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know that I would really tell her what was to come because I would want her to be like really open to it. So it would probably just be that, like, I'm really excited for you and just be open to the experience and how transformative it can be.
Yeah, thank you. I asked Stephanie the same question, and she said, playing small doesn't serve you, is what she would tell her before Rewilded self. And it's time to value yourself. So I'd love to, for the women listening that might be considering this journey, what would you want them to know about this work?
It's very simple, it's elegant. There's no complicated homework, or like it's not about obtaining more information or watching videos or filling out PDFs or doing all this journaling. Like, it's chances are you've probably already done that till your pen run dry, right? But like, this is very simple and elegant, and it cuts through, it cuts to the heart of the matter. And to have that type of support is really what's so needed, in a world where everyone's telling you, oh, this is the next thing, this is the next golden ticket, or perfect strategy. And if you just follow what I tell you, everything will work. Oh my God. Like if this is like the opposite of that. It's so much more effective.
Mm, thank you.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I think like the main thing I would try to get across, I think everything Tilly said I would agree with. So I'll just add a little bit would be that like it's an experience. Like there's not necessarily an answer or a mantra or something that you say that's gonna like unlock everything. It's like you have to actually experience it and trust yourself and also trust you, Emily, because I think that one of your biggest superpowers is intuition and is reading what is underneath the surface in somebody. And if there's not that trust, then how do you grow or how do you transform? And so I think just like trusting Emily, diving headfirst into the experience. And as Tilly said, there's not really a lot of hard work in between. It's a lot of just like reflection and just like noticing.
Mm,
And And that's where like the magic is. I think we want the magic to be in a PDF and we want the magic to be in a video we watched, but the real magic is in just being more open to new perspectives and noticing things. And yeah.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, who would you say that Rewilded is perfect for if you were gonna describe like who this work would serve?
Yeah. Someone who's felt stuck or in your words is at a threshold. I think you use that languaging a lot. Like, but I think maybe that doesn't mean like I don't think people go throughout their day being like, I'm at a threshold, right? Like,
Right.
so maybe to you that means I feel stuck. I know there's something more for me on the other side of this. I don't know what it is, but to hell if I'm not about to find out what it is, because I will do anything to, because I ain't gonna stay here anymore, right? Like that's who this is for. If you know there's something on the other side of whatever wall is there, and you're tired of like knocking it down and it not falling over, that's who this is for.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I hear inside of what you're saying, Tilly, I also hear that sense of commitment. Like, I'm not just gonna get into the container. I'm gonna do the work. Like I'm committed to showing up for this. Yeah.
Yeah, and the work isn't hard. It's
Right.
not.
Right.
Not at all. Like I said, I had to do very little in between our sessions. So it's not like it's going to take a lot of time. It's not like it's hard. It's very simple and elegant.
Mm,
And it is just about seeing and revealing and making aware unconscious pieces and recognizing, where you're still in your own blind spots. And then when they come into the light, you can see them so much more clearly and notice and change course.
yeah. Yeah, that's well said. Thank you, Tilly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say too, we kind of said this at the beginning that it's somebody who's just ready.
Mm,
And as I mentioned, I've worked with so many different coaches and, people, strategists, all these people to help me with different things. And yeah, I think it's like somebody who wants to try something different, like not the person who has like, this is you do this and then you'll get X. Like you don't really have a like formula per se. I mean, there's structure and like there's beauty to what you have, but it's not this like I'm gonna give you this and this is the outcome that's gonna come out automatically from it. So it's somebody who's like, I want to try something different and be open to what the outcome is.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, and I think I was going to ask, are there any fears or hesitations that women listening who might be considering it could have that you'd want to address? But I think you actually have already done that. It's not too much work is something that Tilly really brought up, and I think, Amanda, I really appreciate you hitting on the fact that the experiential piece is really key. One thing that I know is that this is an investment, right? It is $6,500. There's a payment plan, and so the experience and getting getting a taste of that experience is really important. And so I am intentional about offering a sacred clarity call. It's also, there's also another form of it called the uncaging strategy session. And so both of those are the way that we can get in the same room with one another and you can get that experience. And so whether it's, okay, I had an aha from this taste of coaching with Emily and I'm moving on with my life, or yeah, I am a good fit for Rewilded. I think that experience piece feels really important to me too. So thanks for hitting on that, Amanda. Yeah, and I'm gonna share, Stephanie replied as well. I said, what would you want other women to know about doing this kind of identity reclamation work? And she said, you will get out what you put in. Creativity and play are important parts of this work, so be ready to be challenged outside of the normal question asking. And when I asked her who she thought Rewilded is perfect for, she said, women who are doubting themselves, doubting their contribution and value, and want to be bolder and more sure of themselves. And she would say to a woman who's considering the journey but maybe feels scared or uncertain, she would say, it's really worth it. Having a trusty companion and supporter to help you wade through uncomfortable parts of yourself is truly freeing and healing experience. Emily will help you get where you want to go and draw out who you want to be. So, thank you, Amanda and Tilly, very much for just sharing your experiences. And yeah, the themes that emerged, I think, again, there's the stuckness and the readiness, just a readiness to, I love how you described it, Tilly, to push through the wall and get to what's on the other side, right? Like, there's so many times I think we feel that the pain of I can feel it, I can taste it, I can almost grab it, but I'm just not quite there. And that that's such an opportunity place for us to be, especially I think as women, because a lot of the time with our busy lives, right? Like the tasks and the hecticness and the responsibilities we have, Amanda, just like you said, it's easy to kind of decide, well, eventually, like that's a luxury to get to work through that instead of, no, actually, if I want to access the flourishing life that I know is possible, this is essential foundational work. Like this is work that I need to do, not back burner work, right? Or like future luxury work when I finally have free time. Um, So I appreciate, yeah, just the ways that both of your stories kind of weave that together. And I really do, I want to just be clear too, Rewilded is a 6.5 month coaching experience. It's a private coaching experience, so it's one-on-one. And with each woman, it is very distinctly different. So there are 12 clear sessions that are laid out, and also they take on a life of their own based on how each woman is envisioning her own flourishing and how she's showing up in the beginning and in the middle and as things unfold. And I know both Tilly and Amanda, you've referred to the wolves, right? And so uh, if you haven't heard, they're referring to the story when the wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park. And there was just this, it's called a trophic cascade that unfolded. This this shift that happened where the entire ecosystem of the park began to thrive with species of other animals moving back in, and even the landscape of the park was reformed. And the scientists didn't plan that, right? Like they didn't intend for the river to change its course when the wolves were reintroduced. But that's the magic, right? Is when women show up to do this work, there's a knowing like something needs to shift, and together we discover what that is. And we don't know. the magic that's going to unfold. There are always things that happen that we couldn't have predicted at the beginning. And I think that's part of the trust, right? That's required for the experience, but it's also part of what makes it powerful, what makes it worth telling about, right? And I think, yeah, it's worked every time. And I think that's that's what I love about this work is watching in Yellowstone. One of the things that happened was the songbirds moved in because the berries were on the trees again. And right, like you don't think like, well, when I bring wolves into a park, songbirds are going to come back, right? That doesn't equate. That's not like a logical step that you would imagine. But I feel like for me, the songbirds are sort of that I look for them with every woman. Like I look for the songbirds in their life. Like what are the unexpected places that you didn't come in coaching around that topic, but suddenly flourishing is happening over here unexpectedly, right? And yeah, and so I think that there's it really does feel like there's a bit of magic in that. Yeah, Allie, thank you for sharing that you love the story and the perspective on that. So my invitation, uh, first of all, I also want to appreciate your courage. I love Brene Brown's definition of uh, vulnerability. The most accurate measure of courage is vulnerability, right? And I think anytime we tell our own story, especially out loud to, people we know and don't know, there's courage. And so I just want to appreciate Tilly and Amanda. Thank you for your courage and your truth telling today very much. And your stories are proof of what's possible when women choose to uh, not play small and to remember. Um, yeah, thank you. So, if anything you've heard today resonates, I invite you to explore whether this work is calling you. There's the Sacred Clarity Calls, and you can find that at wholeandwild.com/rewilded. And these women's stories, I really believe, show us that transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about coming home to who you've always been. I love that you said that, Tilly. Like, it's not fixing, it's actually not healing, it's remembering, right? It's bringing back to the forefront, allowing these parts of us to roam wild and free in our life. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for witnessing these beautiful transformations with us. And I just want to end by just saying a blessing over everyone in this space who's listening and specifically over you, Tilly and Amanda. Um, yeah, may the parts of you that live at the edges continue to find a home in the landscape of your life.